So the Finals is a very unique shooter compared to most of the big popular shooters out there, and there are a ton of new cool mechanics in this game that not everyone is going to know right off the bat. So today we're going to be going over 7 things you might not know you can do in the Finals. Now keep in mind, if you have played a heap in the beta and obviously now at launch 2, then you will probably know a handful of these. However, there are so many new players in this game that a lot of the stuff that seems obvious to us who've played 20 to 30 hours, it's not actually that obvious, and at some point none of us knew these mechanics either. So keep that in mind, but without wasting any time, let's get stuck right into it. Now the first 2 are actually kind of to do with the same mechanic, but there's 2 different, I guess, sections of this, and this is to do with grabbing items in the game. Now if you've played at all, you'll know that you can pick up the objectives as in the cash outs, and you kind of carry them in your hand. It's almost like your character's using the force and they're just like grabbing it in front of them while you're running. Well, that very same mechanic can actually be used for multiple different things throughout the game. Now the first tip here is actually to do with your downed teammates. For those who didn't know, you can actually pick up their idol, which is the little thing that they drop when they go down. It's like the little statue of their character. You can actually pick that up and carry it with you, take it to safety, and then you can revive your teammates that way. It is a hell of a lot safer, and I pretty much do this every single time, unless maybe I've gotten a team wipe, for example, and I know that there's no enemies nearby. Even then, if it's out in the open, even if I think there are no enemies nearby, I'll generally take them inside and revive them. It is just a lot safer to do that, seeing as the revives in this game do take quite a long time. Now moving on to the next tip, like I said, it kind of has that same mechanic involved in picking other things up. There are certain canisters throughout the world that you can pick up, and certain ones you can throw at buildings and blow up the building, for example. Some of them will throw like a fire little barrel that then sets that area on fire, and these are very, very useful and often critical to actually winning games. Any of these that you can see around the map, there are, I believe, 4 different types. There are the explosive barrels, the flame barrels, the poison barrels, and then like a smoke barrel as well. And any of these that you see sitting around the map, you can pick all of them up and throw them in the general direction. Once you've picked it up, you just essentially press shoot and it will throw it where you're looking. Now this can be very, very clutch. Like I said, this is a big part of the game that if you're not doing this, it's actually a huge detriment to you. You can blow up buildings with the explosive ones. You can put the poison gas ones on an objective, for example, and stop the enemies from stealing it. There is so much you can do with these, and they're almost like a living, breathing part of the map. So make the most of these. They are very, very clutch in a lot of situations. Now those first 2 were definitely more on the obvious side. If you've played for like 5 hours, you probably know most of those ones, but this one, I'm gonna guess most people don't actually know this. You can actually move the cranes on certain different maps. Now not every map has a crane at all times, but if your map does have a crane on it, you can climb to the top of it and you can actually control the crane, which has a wrecking ball on the end of it, and you can genuinely just knock down all of the buildings in your vicinity. Now this is absolutely overpowered in some situations. I haven't actually done this myself just yet, but I've seen other people doing it where they're knocking out the building that the objective is in and just completely leaving it open. So once they plant the cash out, for example, they then knock that building to pieces, and there's nowhere for the enemies to hide if they're trying to steal it, and it has pretty much resulted in that team winning. This thing is absolutely insane. It is genuinely useful, but on top of that, it is just also very fun to knock down the buildings, even if it's not helping your team whatsoever. So I would definitely recommend trying this if you haven't done so already. Now before we go any further, if you guys are enjoying the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more content on the Finals on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now the next thing on the list here, this is a bit of an obvious one, but I think a lot of people are going to overlook this, and this is to do with the test range or the firing range. Now we all know that the unlocking of items in this game is a bit of a grind, and I do actually really enjoy that, but it means that there's a lot of pressure every time you go to unlock something, because what if you spend those VR points and then that thing ends up sucking? You've just wasted all of that time grinding for the VR points. Well, what you can actually do is you can load into the test range, and in the test range every single item is unlocked, and you can actually try all of them out. You can shoot your enemies, see how much damage they deal, check out the recoil patterns. You can essentially do everything you need to do with all of these weapons and gadgets, and that massively reduces the risk of buyer's remorse, because like I said, if you buy something and it ends up sucking, or you just don't like the way that it plays, then that is a huge bummer for this game. So every time you're about to unlock something, be sure to go to the test range, try it out first, see if you like it, and make sure you do like it. And if you don't, then you've definitely saved yourself 800 to 1000 VR points. Now something else that is maybe a little bit more on the obvious side just by default, because a lot of people find this out on accident, but for those who didn't know, there is actually no fall damage whatsoever in this game. The exception being if you jump off the side of the map, then technically there is fall damage because you will die immediately. But in terms of in the boundaries of the game, you cannot take any damage whatsoever from falling. This is super overpowered, and like I said, I'm sure most people have probably come across this at some point, or they will eventually, because there might be a time you accidentally fall off a building, and what do you know, you didn't take any damage. That's how I found out. I was playing it pretty safe when I started playing the beta, and then I accidentally fell off a building, landed, took no damage, and went, okay, well, that's a bit of a lifesaver that I know that. But like I said, not everyone is going to know that. So for those who didn't, feel free to jump off as many buildings as you like. Now, the next thing is actually super overpowered, and this is to do with the jump pad that is usable through the medium class. Now, something you can do is to do with the objectives. You can put the jump pad either underneath, or for example, if it's up against a wall, you can put it on the wall behind that objective. And this is pretty much going to stop anyone from getting close. So for example, let's just say you've planted the cash out and you and your team are defending it. What you can do is put that jump pad, like I said, either underneath it or behind it on the wall. And then anyone who tries to get close to try and steal it, there is a good chance they're going to get pretty much pushed away from that objective and they cannot get close to it. Now, obviously there are ways to blow it up. They could blow the wall up. They could, I think, even just shoot it, and eventually it will take enough damage to disappear. There is ways around this for sure. And even if you get close enough, but not too close, you can still plant the objective, for example, but you're not going to get pushed away from the jump pad. But even if that is the case, this is going to kind of throw a bit of a spanner in the works. It might just push them off at once, and it might be enough time for you to get into that room, take them out, or even just deal a little bit of damage to where they're going to run away, for example. At best case, it's going to stop them completely from getting near the objective, and at worst case, it's just going to be a bit of a nuisance for them and essentially be a pain in their ass. So definitely use this if you are playing as a medium class. It is definitely very, very clutch, and like I said, I think a lot of people aren't actually going to know you can do this. Now, last but not least, this one is kind of in tandem with the first two that I mentioned in terms of the pickup mechanic in this game, but it's actually something to do with the inanimate objects in terms of not just those canisters that I was talking about before, but you can literally pick up items like chairs, and there are fans and stuff around the map. And what you can do is put C4 on them and then throw them at an enemy or into a building, for example. And then you can obviously blow up the C4 to pretty much blow up that room. So this can come in very clutch. I've also seen some insane clips with these. It's pretty mental what people can do. I do also believe if you attach the C4 to one of those explosive canisters, it actually makes the explosion bigger, so it's going to deal more damage and in a bigger area of effect. And so yeah, overall you can definitely get very creative with this. It can also just result in some very fun looking clips, but at the end of the day, it is also very good for, you know, playing the objective and trying to win games as well. So keep that in mind. It is a bit more of a niche, I guess, tip, because if you're not running C4, it's not that useful. But if you do run C4, then definitely give this a try. But anyway, that is it for 7 things you may not have known about the finals. If you guys knew all of these, be sure to let me know, and let me know some stuff that maybe I don't know. I'm always down to do a follow-up to this one. And if you didn't know some of the ones in this video, let me know which is the most useful to you. I'm always keen to hear your guys' thoughts. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.